Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome to a very, very important Radio Free Wall Street. And this show is about the body count. The body count has begun. See, Trump's friends play a really nasty game. Those are the oligarchs. And remember, his campaign manager has been convicted of crimes involving Russians. His attorney, a lifelong confidant, the fix-it man, married two Russians, involved with a lot of Russian deals, has copped the plea and is testifying. We have several of Donald Trump's friends who are about to be indicted, and we have the keeper of the secrets, the National Enquirer, that has a safe full of dirty stories on Donald Trump. Donald Trump's feeling the heat. But that is not how politics is played in Russia. Russia doesn't invite people to testify. They don't get a chance to plea bargain. They get dead. And this happened when Mueller made a major, should we say, stab. And what happened is that Paul Manafort has been charged, and Rick Gates, in lobbying for the Russians. And what's going on here is that that we now have a very interesting turn of events. And that is tying Ukraine money to the Trump campaign. Let me explain. The invasion of the Ukraine by the Russians and the taking of the Crimea Peninsula was a major event, okay? This is one of the greatest aggressions since Hitler attacked Poland in World War II. And it doesn't get the proper coverage or understanding. And it is a major, major crisis that is looming ever large on the world stage. Now, part of the story is that the Ukraine then came under attack, and there was a huge Russian presence there. And we got a problem where that the Russians wanted to use their control over Donald Trump to end these sanctions, okay? Now, an investigation came along, and the investigation was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And a man by the name of Sam Patton was charged on the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And Patton was on the radar because of his connection to the Trump campaign. And it runs into these situations where this is now hitting close to Ukrainian oligarchs. And Ukrainian money was secretly funneled, pro-Russia Ukrainian money, was funneled to the inauguration committee through a Cypriot bank account. Now, that in and of itself would probably be a non-important story for the average person. But in the middle of that, a very interesting thing happened. This little cafe blew up, and there was an explosion. And there's a guy by the name of Alexander Jakarakarenko, okay? If you want the proper name, I'll publish a story for you in Market News and Commentary. And he was a pro-Russian rebel leader and tied into Manafort and tied into the money and tied into the influence over the Trump campaign. And all of a sudden, he turned up dead. Oh. Now, there have been a lot of unreported mysterious deaths, including the man who originally started the dossier. He got by a Republican operative, by the way. He got an overdose of helium. That can really ruin your day. And what's happened is we've got a growing amount of international intrigue about what went on. Now, let's piece this together. Basically, Russians' big deal is Ukraine. Okay, they want to capture it. And they want to finish their piece of work. Now, what they did was a lobbying campaign with Manafort, which said that we Ukrainians, a lot of us speak Russian, and we've really been historically a part of Russia, and we want to go back to our roots. Now, that's against what the UN, G7, which was G8 at the time, and Europe, their understanding of the facts. And to allow Russia to begin gobbling up territory, which it will do, is a real threat to NATO alliance and a real threat to Europe, because Eastern Europe, including Poland, that has been liberated for Russia, doesn't want to go back. But Putin is not one to take no for an answer, and part of his global strategy is to rebuild the former Soviet Union and bring back these rogue states under his leadership and control. And that is something that Donald Trump is not opposed to. And since he's been owned by them, it is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. Now we're at the point where the Mueller investigation, which is investigating all crimes as part of its mandate, including Russian collusion, has shown that there was Russian interference in our election with collusion of people tied to Donald Trump's campaign, including Bannon, who owned Fusion GPS, which was a major supplier of critical data to the Russians to be used in their troll farming to swing the Midwest votes to Donald Trump's campaign, which let him win by a very, very slim margin in the Electoral College. Donald Trump lost the popular vote, contrary to his spin. Biggest landslide ever! Oh, bullshit. Blow it out your ass, please. Biggest people turning out at the mall for my inauguration. It was pretty pitiful how few people were there, Donald. Now, it was a gala event. The inauguration balls were, and a lot of them were financed by Russian money. Now, that was the good old days before the investigation started. Everybody was kind of celebrating and toasting and how great Donald Trump is, but now that's not the case anymore. And the investigations are getting closer and closer to Russian ties, even though there have been no leaks there, and Donald Trump says there's no collusion, no collusion, no collusion, no collusion, no collusion, as you well know. Now, we maintain there was collusion, and a hell of a lot of it. We maintain that the Russian troll farm colluded with the Russian campaign. We maintain that Donald Trump fired the FBI director to end the investigation of the Russian ties, and he so stated. And we also maintain that if you have eyes that see and ears that hears, Russia, if you're listening, if you can find those Hillary emails, you'll be richly rewarded. And Donald Trump has forged a relationship with the Russians. It goes back to New York City days, going back to laundering money through New York City properties. That has been, and was a federal investigation that Donald Trump stopped by firing the federal investigator. Yay! Much similar to firing the FBI director in an attempt to end the Russian probe that the FBI was carrying out. Oh my, what a surprise. Listen, unless you're a congenital idiot, and I guess if you work in a Chevy factory and put enough right rear shock absorbers on a car in repetitive tasks, you can make a case that there is some brain damage involved with that. And let's face facts. There was collusion. There was interference in the election. That's a proven fact. Now, what is the issue is that does that go to Donald Trump's knowledge and or culpability? And that remains to be seen. It's not settled business. Did Donald Trump pay and instruct that his directive payoffs made to bimbos and bunny rabbits, those white tails? Yeah, there was. Did Donald Trump also try to get the documents held by the National Enquirer in the secret safe nailed down? Yeah, you got on tape. So there's enough collusion that you could say that there's a case to be made that this is really one super colluding guy. And there are enough people that were in the Trump campaign who say that there was a Russian connection, and people convicted of their work as foreign agents for the Russians, and things are getting really ugly here. Now the body count comes. I can tell you for a fact that many people that were associated with the Russian troll farm have turned up dead. I can tell you that people are in hiding. And I can tell you that the investigation is getting closer and closer to Donald Trump. So much so the president's a very worried man. And Mueller's connection to the secret Ukrainian money that was blatantly given to the Trump inauguration. Think about that. Hey, here's your friend Vladimir. I'm his agent over here in the Ukraine, and let's have a party, and we'll pay for it. Oh, my God. So there is a close sentiment between the Russians and Trump Jr. They had the meeting in Trump Tower. God only knows what other meetings they've had. And if you understand that the spook agencies have a lot of information they can't go public with, and a lot of information that is, an indictment of Donald Trump, his Russian connections, his vulnerability to be blackmailed. We did a story yesterday on the fact that Russian agents have stated repeatedly that they've got the good on Donald Trump and that he's in their pocket, and that was testimony that was given. And you just can't deny all this. But now it's body count time, my friends. Now it's take off the kid gloves and shit gets serious. Why? Well, the investigation is getting closer to its mark of Russia collusion. The midterm elections are coming up, and Donald Trump is in trouble. Losing both the House and the Senate would be a disaster. That means that there could very well be a lot more investigations, and there could be a whole lot of shit to hit the fan. So our position is the following. Donald Trump is besieged. The attacks are making him crazy. Vladimir Putin is concerned, and people are starting to die. And Mueller is getting closer and closer to Donald Trump, now his attorney, his campaign manager, and a whole lot of people in the Trump organization are going down. And to say there was no collusion is a denial of the facts. To ask the question of whether there was direct Donald Trump collusion with the Russians or his son or his son-in-law, the answer is yeah, they had a meeting. Now, there's an argument about what that meeting was all about, but there was a meeting with the express purpose of giving dirt on Hillary. Now the question is, does the collusion rise to a crime? That remains to be seen. Now the other question that arises is that did Donald Trump try to impede the investigation in any way, known as obstructing justice? And you could make a prima facie case that there's certainly some very interesting information. So to put it very simply, Donald Trump is extremely vulnerable. He is extremely worried. Vladimir is very concerned about this. Sanctions is a big-ass, hairy deal. And Vladimir Putin thought his problems were solved since they owned Donald Trump. See, Donald Trump's not an honest politician. Definition of an honest politician is one that's been paid off, stays paid off. The problem with Donald Trump is you pay him off, makes a deal with the devil, he becomes the president of the United States, and because of extreme pressure, he backs away. He doesn't deliver the goods. Now, Vladimir is not the most understanding man in the world. He does not understand finesse. He doesn't understand the delicacies of dealing in democracy, so you can understand where he's very pissed. And you can understand that Donald Trump, after we're seeing all kinds of Russian nerve gases popping up in places he shouldn't be killing people dead, that, you'd have to be wondering how much you want to piss off a man like Putin. And again, there's a carrot and a stick. There is the push and the push and the push. Donald Trump is trying to satisfy Vladimir, but it's hard, Vladimir. You understand he's got these pesky interviews, he's got that free press, and he's got the expectations, and it's a very difficult world that Donald Trump finds himself in, and one that he can't so easily buy his way out of. So if you grasp these issues, understand this, Donald Trump's in trouble. The Mueller investigation is rounding up more and more Russians, more and more people with Russian connections, more and more people with Russian family ties, and more people who are clearly Russian agents that clearly were involved in the Trump organization, truly involved in the campaign, and truly involved in even the inauguration. Now, we don't care what Donald Trump does with the parts of his body below his belt and above his knees. Except that when those events get out of hand, that means he can be vulnerable. And we've long been of the opinion that Donald Trump is vulnerable. We've long of the opinion that they've got the goods on him. And we've long been of the opinion that Trump knows he's got a big problem. So if you compute all these things together, you go, holy shit, how bad can this get? And I'm going to give you an answer. This get very bad. This could give us a constitutional crisis. Donald Trump has so stated that he wants to end the Mueller investigation and that he wants to fire his Attorney General Sessions and get around to firing the Mueller investigators and end this thing now. Now. They've had enough time to prove it. Now, the answer is that this investigation is not inordinately long. They normally take years. Special prosecutor has not even been at it a year yet. He has got tangible results. His subpoena powers have been cut back dramatically. And it's just an example of Donald Trump throwing his power around. Why is Donald so obsessed with Hillary Clinton's emails? It's the nothing burger. It's nothing burger. Why is he saying you need to prosecute Hillary? Hillary's a bad person, not me, Hillary. When he's had emails, when he's hidden emails, and I might add, not necessarily on protected servers. This is all going to come unglued. Now, let's face facts. The Trump lovers want you to know it's fake news, and any news that says anything bad about Donald Trump, you hear with your own ears and recordings, is not his voice, has been doctored. Seriously, they said that. And the situation is that as we go closer to midterms, Republicans are scared shit. Let me tell you what the common private narrative is. Look, we cannot afford to piss off Donald Trump because so much of his base is our base. Of course he's crazy. Of course he's gone off the deep end. Of course he's destroying relationships. But that's Donald Trump. That's how he operates. Now, the Democrats on the other side are saying, look, this is going to go so far that trade partners are going to leave us. Allies are going to abandon us. And this is going to have a devastating effect on the economy, and that's the camp I'm in. I'm of the opinion that this thing is now at the point where it's going ballistic. It is at the point where enough of Donald Trump's lies and bullshit sessions are being reported back, and it's kind of hard to be spoken out of context when it was content that you were giving. So don't kid yourself. The body count will rise. We'll point it out to you as we stumble upon the bodies here and there, and we'll try to put the pieces together so you understand that this is about oligarchs. This is about their massive amounts of money they got for basically nothing. This is about the huge share holdings that were used to get the jump start going on the Russian economy and Russian market. Listen to me. This was all about privatization, okay? And what happened was Russian people did not know what stocks were. They were given a bunch of them, and the oligarchs bought them for pennies. And through a little bit of magic, they ended up controlling these massively wealthy billion-dollar companies, mostly related with oil. And they were used as a tool, as a conduit, to project Russian influence worldwide. Now, when the sanctions came along after the invasion of the Ukraine, that was something Vladimir Putin wasn't counting on. And that's when dear friends like Donald Trump came along and helped them with their money problem. You know, you have a money problem, I have a money problem. Let me watch this, let me scrub this. Give me 5%, give me 10%. I solve my business problems, and you get a beautiful apartment with a bank account full of now what is legal money. So this is a move on that wild side, but it's coming unglued. Too many people with knowledge of how the deals went are now under the thumb of the prosecutor. Vladimir is really putting pressure on Donald Trump because Vladimir wants out from these sanctions, and they're getting worse. And Donald Trump can't deliver, and he is at a dilemma. Donald Trump does not know what to do. Now, he understands that if he loses the midterms, both the House and the Senate, it's bye-bye, baby. It's adios, Donald Trump. He's over with. Done. With a finger in him. Now, I maintain that there's a great groundswelling of popular opposition to Donald Trump. I maintain that a lot of the Trump chumps are starting to have a wake-up call. And I maintain that we may be surprised in those elections. And I also want to let you know a whole lot of money is to be made in that. So the crux of this situation is prepare yourself for the Trump-chump crash, which we know is a Trump depression. Prepare yourself for market wipeout like you've never seen before. Prepare yourself for a desperate Donald Trump doing very desperate things in the coming months.